Hello and welcome to Faber Booktime. My name is Kieran Larwood and I write the Five Realms series of books that started off with the Legend of Podkin One-Ear. When I was little I always wanted to be an artist, especially a comic book artist, and that's actually how I started writing, because I wanted a story to go with the pictures I was drawing, and then I discovered that I enjoyed writing the story even more than doing the pictures. That's what really started me off writing my books. So the Five Realms books is a series. It starts off with the Legend of Podkin One-Ear, and then the second one is the Gift of Dark Hollow. The third is the Beasts of Grimheart, and the latest one is called Uki and the Outcasts. And it's set in a world where no human beings live, only rabbits, and it's a fantasy world, so it's inspired by books like The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. And in the first three books, the main character is a rabbit called Podkin, who's a young chieftain's son, and his world is attacked by evil rabbits called the Gorm, and he and his sister Paz and his little brother Pook have to save their world from these evil beings. And Uki and the Outcast is the first in a new trilogy. The hero is a rabbit called Uki, and he's what's called a chimera, so one half of his fur is a different colour from the other half. He's got a friend called Jory and another friend called Cree, and they are all outcasts from their families and their homes, and again their world is in danger and they have to save it. And here is a map of part of the rabbit world. So the Five Realms has 5 separate countries. The first 3 books are set in Scotland and Enderby here, and Uki is set in another realm which is over here called Holstland. This is one of the maps from the start of the book. One of the things I really love doing is making up worlds and drawing maps and getting to name all the different places on them. It's quite tricky. I'm going to read a bit to you now. I'm going to read a bit from the first book in the series, which is The Legend of Podkin One-Ear. I'm going to read a bit from the beginning of the story. And at the start, Podkin, he's not a very nice rabbit. He's quite lazy. He's very spoilt. He knows when he grows up he's going to be the chief of his tribe, so he thinks he doesn't have to try very hard at anything. And it's a special night in the rabbit world. It's Bramblemas Eve, which is a bit like our Christmas Eve. It's the night before when the midwinter rabbit's going to come in the night and bring some presents, hopefully, for all the young rabbits. And they're having a big party in the warren, and Podkin is there. He's hiding away and not doing what he's supposed to as usual. So it came to pass that on a Bramblemas Eve, much like this one, Podkin One-Ear, although technically 2 ears at this point, was sitting upstairs in the wooden gallery that ran around the edge of Munbury Longbarrow. He was lazily pushing around a toy wagon, munching on a stolen piece of cornbread and daydreaming about the midwinter rabbit who would be visiting that night, hopefully with a sack full of presents. "What are you doing up here, Pod?" His sister had tiptoed up the stairs and was now glaring at him. Podkin's little brother Pook was nestled in the crook of her arm, chewing away at a carrot. "Mother sent me to get you. They're about to have turnip soup and dance the bramble reel." Podkin yawned deliberately. "Oh, the bramble reel, how exciting!" He took Pook from her and tickled his tummy. He could hear all the festivities in the hall below and had absolutely no desire to join in with them. "Oh, please stand aside so I can rush down the stairs and prance about like a prize pudding." "If you don't come down, you're going to be in trouble," said Paz. "Do you have any idea what it takes to be chieftain? Nobody will want to follow a lord who spends all his time tickling his baby brother, playing with toys and hiding away in corners daydreaming." Podkin was about to leap on Paz and pull her ears when the warren horn began to sound. The 3 young rabbits rushed to the edge of the gallery and looked down on the hall. Soldiers were grabbing spears and shields, children were being herded into the corners, and their father, Chief Lopkin, was striding towards the burrow entrance, drawing his sword, his great silver broadsword that everyone thought was magical. "Midwinter Rabbit! Midwinter Rabbit!" Pook shouted, trying to wriggle free. "It's not the Midwinter Rabbit, Pook," said Podkin, the argument with Paz forgotten. "It looks like trouble, and trouble doesn't leave presents outside your burrow at night." Frightened murmurs were drifting up from the crowd below. "A rider! A lone rider coming! And then a rider wearing armour, iron armour! And finally, it's the Gorm! The Gorm are here!" This last shout caused mass panic. Podkin could see his father yelling, but his voice was swallowed up by the hubbub. He watched him breathe deep, then bellow, "Silence!" The whole Longbarrow instantly froze, hundreds of scared eyes turning to Lopkin, who stood amongst them, his magic silver sword flashing. He let the silence stand for a moment before speaking in as calm a voice as he could. A rider approaches, true, a Gorm, true, but it is a lone rider, and he carries the white flag of peace. We will let him enter and hear what he has to say. The sound of the heavy oak entrance doors opening echoed down the warren. The rabbits in the Longbarrow pressed back against the walls. Spears were raised. Breath was held. Something was making its way along the entrance hall. "Will it be okay, Paz?" whispered Podkin. "I don't know, Pod," Paz replied. "Father has his sword." The look in her eyes was enough to make Podkin truly afraid for the first time in his short life. Chief Lopkin called out the traditional greeting to the darkness of the tunnel. "Enter, stranger, and be welcome on this Bramblemas Eve." Clank. Screech. Grinding metal, followed by the clump of heavy leather boots. It seemed the rider had dismounted whatever had been carrying him, and was now coming down the entrance tunnel on foot. 150 terrified rabbits all held their breath. Clank. Screech. Pook began whimpering. They could now see something moving in the darkness of the tunnel. Torchlight from the great hall caught on metal and bounced back in orange glints. "Enter," Lopkin called out again. "We mean you no harm." With a final grinding squeal, the figure emerged and leapt from the tunnel to land in the centre of the warriors' circle. The rabbits had all heard terrifying tales of the Gorm, but none had done the real thing justice. This wasn't a rabbit any more. If it ever had been, it was now something else entirely, a walking slab of metal and meat, pierced through with rusty thorns and nails. Its armour overlapped in sheets of jagged, dented iron, mottled with rust and splashes of dried crimson that looked very much like old blood. Its head was completely covered by a helm, dotted all over with cruel, shard-like spikes and curved metal horns that almost scraped the ceiling. From the shadowy eye slits, two dim scarlet pupils glowed. Podkin was so scared he wanted to cry. Worst of all was the thing's jagged black iron sword. That and the skulls that hung from its belt. Rabbit skulls, painted all over with evil-looking runes. Skulls of all sizes, including ones that looked like children's. The Gorm rabbit turned his head to and fro, before resting his gaze on Lopkin himself. "I don't want your welcome," the deep voice echoed inside its iron shell. "I came to tell you I am taking your warren, that and your magic weapon.